Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about my experience on placement as a student nurse. So someone asked me on one of the comments on my previous video if I could explain what actually happened. So in the UK, at least in the university I went to, I know that other university might do their placement a little bit different. So in the university I went to, they do 2 placements per year, and in first year both placements I believe they are 10 weeks long, and then in second year they are both again 10 weeks long, and then in third year the first placement is 8 weeks long and then the last one is 12 weeks long, which is a management placement. All of my placement in second year and in third year were amazing. I loved all of them. I had really good mentors and I had the staff were really nice. But in my first year second placement was hell. That placement literally made me want to quit nursing, and I was having like really bad breakdown. It was pretty damaging to me and to my self-esteem, to my confidence, and to just me as a human being. It was really demeaning. So in my first year, first placement, I was sent to a dementia ward, and I got to do a lot. I had a very good mentor. All the staff were really good, and I got to do a lot of skills. Like, so I learned so much in my first year. I was actually shocked that I could learn so much in one placement. So when it was time to finish and move on to my second placement, because we did in the first year we did our placement back to back. So yeah, I was excited to start the second placement. So, and also it was in the same hospital, so it wasn't a new hospital for me, so that was quite good because I knew my whereabouts by then. So towards the end of my first placement, I went to look at my second placement area. So that's what we usually are told to do, to just go and check out the ward and the staff, just to let them know, you know, who you are and when you'll be starting. So I did that, yeah, and everything was fine. Comes the day of my placement, I get told that so and so is going to be my mentor, and everything was fine. Yeah, you know, week one, nothing major. I mean, what the first thing I noticed, they didn't do like a walkthrough, so they never showed me the things around the ward. So I didn't know where like the codes for the locked room. I didn't know how to get access because I didn't have any of the codes. I didn't know where certain things were and stuff like that. But that was fine. I wasn't that bothered. I just thought I would learn it along the way. But anyway, first week was fine. Second week, again, people were not being very friendly. Some of them would make like little comments, you know, here and there. But mainly this was the healthcare. But you know, it was fine. I wasn't that bothered. Things like that don't really bother me. So week 3, by then I hadn't done any medication round or any nursing like thing. Or the only thing I was doing was washing and, you know, getting the patient ready, feeding the patients, which is essential to learn as well. But obviously I was paying for a nursing degree, not for a healthcare degree, because it doesn't exist. So I wanted to learn more nursing stuff, and also didn't want to lose the skills that I learned in my first placement. I was quite glad, happy actually. One of the nurses asked me if I could do the physical observation for her patients. So I was like well excited. It was about 1 o'clock, so the late staff were about to start. But I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. At least I'm doing something different rather than just, you know, feeding and washing or toileting patients. So yeah, I was about to go and do it, and one of the nurses from the late staff was starting a shift. I don't think she was a band 6. As far as no, actually she wasn't a band 6. She was a band 5. She wasn't like any like manager or anything like that. But she was starting a shift, and she was gonna take over from the nurse that actually asked me to do the physical observation. So obviously as a new student, I'm just telling her, oh, I'm just gonna do your I'm just gonna check the physical obs. And she looked at me, like she literally looked at me up and down. She was like, no, I don't want you to do it. I want to take care of my own patient. I don't know if you're gonna do it right. And I was just like, what the hell? You know, like in my head I was just like, I'm actually just doing physical observation. I'm not giving them IV or something. I don't know what she was thinking I was going to do. But she was so rude and so mean. She said I wasn't capable of doing it. And she didn't trust me to do it because she wants to make sure that I do it properly. She does it properly. So yeah, I didn't get to do the physical obs. Week 4, again, I'm still continuing to do it, toileting and you know, feeding and all of that, and I wasn't doing anything else. Still at that point hadn't done any medication round, so I approached my mentor. She was a part-time nurse, but she was only there twice a week, I think, or 3 times a week, something like that. So I approached my mentor and I told her, like, you know, I've been here for 4 weeks, just to let you know. I asked if I could speak to her, so we went into the staff room and I was just telling her, you know, like, I haven't been able to do any nursing things like medication, or, you know, preparing IV, or even looking over IV at dawn, ward round, nothing at all. The only thing I had done was watching patient and toileting them, doing commode, doing bed. That's the only thing I was doing. So I told her. She was like, oh yes, okay, that's fine, we'll make a plan, and we'll you know, like, see what else you can do. Okay, that was cool. The next day she's back in, and she comes to me and she's like, what you told me yesterday really upset me, and I went home crying. And I was just like, what? You know, in my head I was thinking, like, what did I say? I had to go back trying to remember if I said anything rude or anything, because I couldn't remember saying anything. But I asked her, like, what did I actually say that made you upset? And she was like, oh, you were telling me how to do my job. I was like, no, I wasn't. I was just asking you if you could teach me more, because I don't want to lose my skill that I learned in my previous placement. And she was like, no, but that actually felt like you were telling me how to do my job, and you didn't think I was a capable mentor, which obviously she wasn't. But the point is, I didn't say that to her. The point is that I told her that I just wanted to learn more as a student. You become a student to learn. You don't become a student to be doing healthcare or other people's job. But she found it upsetting, and from that day onwards, she made my placement hell. I decided to email the university to let them know what was happening. I'm glad that at that point our course director was a different person, so it's now we are a different course director in our second year. But this being my first year, our course director was very nice. And I also spoke to her, and I spoke to my mentor at university. She was also very nice. She was aware of this. She said, thank you for letting me know. I will contact the practice facilitator in your university, so in your placement. So each placement, each hospital has a practice facilitator, and they are like the I don't know how to call them, like nurses or slash staff that take care of students on placement. If anything happens, they usually like take care of and try to sort it out with the ward. So anyway, I tell her this, and she said, and then the practice facilitator contacts me. She's like, I'm gonna speak to the placement and try and figure out what's happening, blah blah. And she does, and she sorts it out. She speaks to the mentor, and the mentor is nice from then. Like, for a week she's nice, for like the rest of the week she's nice. So I did a few medication rounds during that week, and I did prep some IV, and that was nice to do, you know, to feel like I actually was a student and not a healthcare. A week after, my mentor approaches me, and she's telling me, oh, why haven't you done any spoke visits? You've been here for 6 weeks now, you know, you should have done this mini spoke visit, blah blah. And a spoke visit is when you leave your ward to go to a different ward or to a different unit to learn what they do in that unit. So for example, that placement I was at, it was a gastro unit, gastro ward. So I could have done a spoke with the endoscopy team. I could have done I could have gone with the dietitians and like different departments to learn about what they do. But obviously, like, at that point it had been 6 weeks. Because of how bad my placement was going, or how uncomfortable I was feeling, you know, I didn't want to leave the ward not knowing anything. I just felt like I didn't know enough being in that placement to leave to go to another place when I wasn't even aware of what was happening in my own placement. So I was telling this to her, you know, like, oh, I will book it, but I will book it towards the end of my placement, just because, you know, I want to learn a bit more on my placement before I leave. And then, and while she was asking me about this, we were sat in the nursing station. So if you work in the UK, you know that nursing station is usually in the middle of the ward, so most people can like hear or see you or see what you're doing. So I'm telling her this, and she's now all of a sudden, I don't know where this comes from, she's like shouting at me like, well, you're here as a student, you should do what I say, blah, blah, blah. I don't know why she was shouting at me, but she was just shouting to the point where another patient came out from the ward literally in front of us, and she's like, oh, we shouldn't be shouting at your student, you know. And she's like, she's not obviously speaking to the patient, she's talking to me, and she's still shouting at me, even if the patient has said that to her. And I, you know, like, I don't know, I think it's just everything, the placement being quite rough, quite difficult, and a lot of other things happening. I don't know, I just broke down. So I got up from there and I just went to the toilet, and I was like crying, like proper in tears. And I think, because obviously I was in the toilet, but I think the patient, from what I've been told anyway, the patient went to report this to the manager on the ward, and the manager spoke to my mentor, and then like maybe like half an hour later, she comes and knocks on the toilet, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be shouting, I'm just trying to do what's best for you, blah blah blah. But you know, like, I was just like over it at that point. I was just like, you know, I'm a student, I'm here to learn, and I've been treated like shit for something I'm paying for, which is what annoyed me the most. I'm paying for this degree, I'm paying to be on the placement, and you've got the audacity to be a mentor and treat me like that's what actually really annoyed me, you know. And so that's what happened then. And this was just week 6 of my placement. Again, I informed my university of this, and then the next day I think I went off sick because I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be in placement. I didn't want to be there. And so yeah, I called in sick, and then when I came back the next day, she said, oh, we have to do your midway interview. So halfway through your placement, you do like an interview just to see how you're doing. And God, so during this interview, she's looking through my paper and everything, and she said, oh, okay, I'm gonna do an action plan. And I'm asking her, why do I need an action plan when I've not done anything wrong that you can actually blame me or say that I've not improved, because everything you've asked me to do I've done, but I spoke with it. And she was like, well, I need you to come in early on your when you know, at work, and when you come to placement. And I'm like, and I'm asking her, I'm here on time. Our handover's at 7 o'clock, and I'm here for 7 o'clock. I'm there ready, standing in the nursing station for 7 o'clock. And she's like, no, well, I would like you to be here at least 10-15 minutes early to prepare yourself. And then also you need to be able to have more interaction with the staff that you're working with. And also I would like you to come in, you know, and ask the staff, how was your day, or how was your weekend? She wanted me to come in. Imagine this stupid woman. She wanted me to come in early to go and ask the staff, how was your day? Is she okay? Is she okay? How are you okay? I don't care about the day. I don't care how anyone's day was. I don't like the people in that placement. I'm not gonna ask them how the day was. Next day, this week 6 was hell. This was the week before my Christmas holiday, by the way. So I was just trying to, like, you know, like, trying to just survive. So now the next day, I'm working with a different nurse, and she's lovely. She was such a nice nurse. I was working with this newly qualified, I asked her, oh, I've got to do part of my book, so we've got a placement book that we need to fill in. And so I asked the nurse, oh, can I go down in the library, hospital library, to do some of my book, and I'll come back up, you know. And she said, oh yeah, that's fine, just go, yeah, just go, and then let us know when you're back. Just to let you know, students are not counted in the numbers when you're on placement. Obviously, when I was in my displacement, I was always counted as a number. I went to the library, did like half of the book, or maybe even more than half, because I don't like to leave it last minute, so I was trying to sort it out. Did my book, and I believe what happened, yes, what happened, I had my mobile number with me. One of the nurses called me. She said, oh, Didi, what are you? I didn't know who this nurse was at that point. She said, what are you? And I was like, oh, I'm in the library. And she said, oh, can you come here now, because we're doing it's meal time. Yeah, meal time, can you come up? And in my head I'm thinking, I've not even managed to do as much as I wanted, because I wanted to pretty much finish my book. But I said, yeah, okay, that's fine, I'll come back up. Went back upstairs, and the nurse that actually called me was the very first nurse that didn't trust me to do the physical observation. She was there and she said to me, why did you go to the library? You know, you were supposed to be here with the staff and helping the staff. And I said to her, oh, hold on, mate. I'm not counting numbers, first of all. And it's part of my placement to do my book in my placement hours, not at home, okay? So I need to use the library time if I need to use it. And then she was like, oh no, well, you should be sitting up here in the office and do it if you want to do it, not go off the ward. And I was just like, and I was, at this point I was angry. And I told her, you're not the nurse in charge. So you do not, and I'm not working with you. So you don't get to tell you what to do. I was pissed off. And she was like, no, I am the nurse in charge now. And I said to her, you were not the nurse in charge at that point. I asked so-and-so, and she said it was fine. And she said, oh, but she's only newly qualified, so she doesn't matter whatever she says. You have to say what you have to do what I say. Imagine, like, how can you demean another staff member? And the poor little girl, yeah, the poor young qualified was standing there. And I'm just like, I actually was about to cry, but anyway. Yeah, pretty much I was crying every day at this placement. I was coming home and crying every day. Every single day. But that's another episode. So that happened. Holidays are over. Again, I have contacted at that point I contacted again my university mentor. The university mentor again had to contact the practice facilitator. So when I'm off on holiday, practice facilitator emails me and says like, oh, I've spoken now to this and this, things are gonna have to change when you come back from your Christmas holiday. Things should be better. If there's any issue, please come back to me. I come back to placement, and at that point we have 2 new students. I come back and things were a little bit better. I was still not doing pretty much anything, but there was less bitchiness going on and less comments and stuff like that towards me. So that was better. The other students were fine. They had their own mentor, but everything was fine. At that point, you know, like not fine, but you know, it was manageable, a lot better than what it had been before I went off. What happens is at some point I'm still doing nothing. I'm not doing much medication, or I've not been given any patient to take care of. So at some point I approach the band 6 and I ask her, you know, I've not been able to, this is now, maybe it's like week 8 or week 10 of my placement, so almost the end. And I tell her, you know, I've not been able to do much of my management part, or like taking care of any patient. Which means that I wasn't able to sign off some of my skills of my placement book. And so I go to her, oh, can I, you know, do something? And then she says, oh no, we haven't got, we need you to, you know, to help with the toileting, and there's a few patients that need to use the commode quite a lot, if you could do that. And I was so annoyed. I was like, well, but, and I told her, like, I'm sorry, but I need to be able to do this part of my skills. I'm not going to be able to get signed it off if I don't do it. So she said, okay, we'll think about it, and then we'll do something. We get a patient that needs to be on a one-to-one basis. And the students are not allowed to do one-to-one because of the risk that are associated with one-to-one, and we're not covered to do certain types of skills. But anyway, we get a patient that it's on a one-to-one basis. There's not enough staff. There's short of staff, which is nothing new in the NHS. But the band 6 comes to me and she's like, oh, Lily, I remember you said you wanted to take care of some patient. Why don't you take care of this bay? And I said, oh yeah, please, yes, thank you. I was well happy. I go into the bay and I see the patient's a one-to-one, and I go back and I'm like, I don't think I can take care of that bay because you've got a one-to-one patient there and there's no staff. And she's like, oh yeah, but you can look after him while you take care of the bay. So her sneaky, clever idea was to make me go on a one-to-one basis with the patient. So I go to her like, I'm not going to do that because I'm not covered. If anything happens, then it would be my ass on the line, not yours. So I said that I wasn't going to do it. She was very angry, and she asked me to please just watch the bay from outside. I don't have to be specific for that patient, but if the patient gets up from his bed, please call her. And yeah, I just did that. I didn't obviously get to do anything because I was constantly asking the patient to sit back down on his bed. So that wasn't really taking care of anybody. That was me on a one-to-one. Towards the last week of my placement, and my mentor is like, oh, I'm gonna be working all week this week, so can you please make sure you're here all week. The way I worked out bearing in mind that I've already worked out my hours and she gone through my hours, she knows what days I was working yet. So I was only doing like 3 long days and 1 short. This is what I was doing. So I go to her and I'm like, well, because now being the last week I had already accumulated so many hours, I only had to be in twice the final week, and not obviously 5 days. So I tell her that. She knows. She's fully aware, she knows. So I'm reminding her that again. And then she's telling me, oh, I'm not going to sign you off if you're not here all week because I haven't seen you do much of the scales. The irony. The same woman didn't want me to do anything now is saying that she cannot sign me off because she hasn't seen me doing any of the scales. So now I have to come in like for 4 hours a day kind of thing, you know, just to be able to come in every day of the week. The entire week I was there, she only worked with me once, and she was there, but she decided to work with a final year student, and so she made me come in for the whole week, but she didn't work with me but once. And the one day she worked with me that month, all she was doing was complaining about a baby daddy, that was how useless he was, which in all honesty I didn't care. Comes my last day and I'm so happy that it's my last day. This last day I was supposed to finish at 1 o'clock. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, something, I think 12:30, something like that. So come in the morning, she's sitting down there. There's all the staff are sitting there doing, you know, ready for handover. That same healthcare, the entire time I was there, she's always worked in the female section of the ward, while I was always working on the male section. That one day they said she's gonna be working with me. But just before that happened, I came in and I asked, and I told my mentor, oh, you know, today I'm finishing at 12. Can you please make sure that you do my final interview, which hasn't been done yet, but can you please make sure that you do it before I finish? And she did this. She just crawled the shoulder. And I was like, oh, and I reminded again, you know, it needs to be done before I leave. And then that healthcare, yeah, said, oh, it's gonna be done when it gets done. And I'm looking at her, I look at her and I'm like, when did I speak to you? At this point I was angry, I wasn't nice to anyone anymore. So I said, when did I speak to you? And she looked at me and laughed. But I didn't speak to you, so why are you putting your stupid mouth in a conversation that has nothing to do with you? I go to work with her and I'm telling her, so as we're washing this patient, I'm telling her, oh, the patient cannot sit up properly because if he does, he gets really something, I don't know, I don't fully remember now what was wrong with him, but he will get sick. So we had to like, it had to be like at 45 degrees always, even when we're washing him. So I tell her that, you know, just to let her know. And she's like, do not tell me how to do my job. I've been here for 12 years. I know how to do my job better than you. And I'm like, I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm just telling you about this patient as you've never worked it over this end. And she's like, can you please stop talking and just roll the patient? That's what she's saying to me. The patient looks at me and I look at him and I just, you know, ignore. She doesn't listen to me. The patient gets up. The patient's sick. And now I'm telling her, I told you, you didn't listen to me. And she's giving me like dirty looks the entire time, like rolling her eyes, you know, like puffing and all of that. And anyway, we just cleaned the vomit, cleaned the patient. And then like we finished with this patient and the other patient were like on a one-to-one basis and the others could do it themselves. So I asked her, oh, can I speak to you for a minute in the office? So we go in the office and she's walking in the office, she's already rolling her eyes, but we get to the office and I'm like, I shut the door. I don't shut it fully, but I leave it ajar, and because I don't want obviously people to listen and I still want to be professional. And I tell her, you know, I didn't appreciate the way you spoke to me in front of the patient, and it wasn't professional and I don't like to be spoken to like that. And she goes off. She's like shouting at me. I was like, you are being extremely, I don't know, I don't even remember what she was doing, but she was shouting and she started crying. That's why I think it was planned. I'm sure this two lady, my mentor in the stupid healthcare, planned it to literally make my last day hell, because first of all, she's never worked with me. She's never worked on the male side. Strangely, she's gonna work with me. So as soon as I take her in and I speak to her and she starts shouting, from out of nowhere, that mentor appears, comes through the door, and she's like, well, it's your fault, you shouldn't be talking to staff like that, you're only a student and you're already being extremely rude. And I'm thinking, where did you come from? First of all, you didn't even witness what happened as we were watching the patient. You just came out of nowhere, like you were expecting, you were waiting for this to happen. And they both started shouting at me. The manager comes, obviously hears all the shouting, the commotion, comes from the end of the the warden comes into in the office, the manager's office where we were at, and she's like, okay, can you guys stop shouting, can you go back to work, this is not professional, and this is not how, you know, what you should do. And then the healthcare is like, oh, I'm gonna go home now, she made me upset, I'm gonna go home. And I fucking lost it. If you wanna go home, because no one wants you here. And I was mean, yes. And she started crying even more, yes. Am I happy that I made her cry more? Yes. But I wasn't going to apologize to any of them. They were being extremely rude to me. So I'm glad that I stood up for myself and I said what I said. And the manager was like, okay, that's enough. Can you just, you know, go back to work? And I said, I'm not going back. I said, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go speak to the practice facilitator because I'm not happy with this situation. So I went to find the practice facilitator, spoke to her. And I didn't go back to the ward until it was like lunchtime, because I didn't want to be there. So 12 o'clock, just before 12 o'clock, I go back. And by this time, like, the late staff are starting to come in. And I go again to my mentor and I'm like, you know, it's almost 12 o'clock now. I'm supposed to be leaving in half an hour. Can you please do my interview, my final interview, because I need to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go home. She's like, oh, now it's lunchtime, so we can't do it, you have to wait until after. So now she says to me, oh, we'll do the interview, but I need to have a witness in there with me, so I'm gonna ask one of the other nursing staff to be in there during our interview. I think it's about 1:30 at this point. Yeah, I'm still there. She takes me into the staff room. Another nurse comes along with her, and this other nurse, I'm so happy, she was like nice. She was one of the nice nurses, yeah, that she brought in. And she's telling whatever, I don't know whatever she told her before, but she's telling her again, like, why she's in there. So I said to the because she was telling her what happened that morning as well. So I was telling the nurse, oh, actually, this is what happened, you know, and I didn't want to speak to her in front of the patient because that would have been unprofessional. So I took her into the room and blah, 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 spoke to her this way, and I said that to her, and she got angry, started crying, so I got upset as well. And I was telling her also before that, with my mentor, the issue is all I asked her is to teach me more. And the funny thing is, I already spoke to that same nurse, telling her that I wanted to do more, and she, whenever I was working with her, I was doing a lot more. But so she was teaching me, so she knew the issue. So then the nurse looks at my mentor and she's like, well, if this is how it happened and it's the appropriate way, you know, yeah, she shouldn't be obviously talking to a staff member in front of patient. It's the right thing to take her in, and it's obviously quite nice to have a student who wants to learn more. And my mentor did not like that. My mentor didn't like that, to hear that what she was actually doing was wrong. So she asked the other nurse to leave, that she wants to finish my my final interview. So I give her the book, and she starts writing. She obviously had to pass me because she didn't have any grounds to fail me. So she had to pass me. And she was, and then on the book there's a section where you have to write your comment. And she's like writing, oh, Didi is too keen to learn. Didi wants to do things learn quite quickly. She wants to learn a lot of things. Is that a bad thing? You tell me, is that a bad thing for a student to want to learn more? Make it make sense? Because it doesn't make sense, my darling. How are you gonna write that I'm too keen to learn and want it sound like it's a bad thing? And I lean over just to say, yeah. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write this, and I'm gonna say that you're not punctual. As soon as she says that I'm not punctual, I snatched that book out of her hand. I literally snatched the book and I said, you're not gonna write lies on my book, because that's not true. I'm not gonna be here 10 minutes early, 15 minutes early to ask no staff how the day was, because I don't care. Simple as that. I do not care about the day. They're not nice to me. I'm not gonna ask them about the day as if I care, because I don't. So I snatched the book from her and she started shouting at me, and you know, like, she again being extremely rude, shouting at me, blah blah. The manager from the adjacent ward comes into the staff room, and she's like to my mentor, you shouldn't be shouting at a student like that. So that as soon as she says that, my mentor gets up and leaves the room and goes back into the ward. Then another band 6 from the same ward as that manager that walked in comes in and says, what's happening, you know, because obviously they could hear the shouting. So what's happening? And I'm like, I told her, like, this is what happened, and she's writing this and this on my book. And then she says, like, the manager and the band 6 from the other ward say, you need to go and speak to the practice facilitator because this is not acceptable. So I do that. I'm crying at this point. I take my book and I go to the practice facilitator. I walk down the entire flipping hospital in tears. That's so embarrassing. But I get to the practice facilitator office and I tell her what happened, and she's like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna finish your final interview. She finishes my final interview. She has to sign it off for me. Yeah, that's what happened when I was on placement. That was my hell of a placement. I was so happy and so glad that every other placement I had after that was better. I mean, I had one placement that wasn't the greatest on my second year, but it ended up being quite good towards the end because the staff was actually very supportive. My university, unfortunately, the course director, I should say, not the university as a whole, but the course director wasn't very, well, she didn't care, let's just say it that way. She didn't care. She didn't care about some students, I should say, not to say the other word, but she didn't care about some students, but she cared about the other students, which was a bit. I do have to say that when I did go back on when I started my second year, because that final placement was the end of my first year, so when I went back on my second year, I had a different mentor, university mentor, and I told him, like, what happened, because we had to meet up with, like, as a new mentor, we had to meet up for the first time. So I told him, like, this is what happened, and he was not happy with it. This mentor was so nice that he decided that he was gonna take it further. He contacted the practice facilitator as well as the ward manager and took it further to a point where she wasn't allowed to be a mentor anymore. I think she had to go back and do, like, more courses before she was allowed to mentor again students. And I said to my mentor in university, like, I want something to happen to her. I don't think it's fair that she gets away for treating a student like that. I don't think it's fair. Because, like, this happened to me, but what if it happens to another student whose mental health is, like, already really fragile? And you know, like, at the end of the day, we need to be kind to people because we don't know what people are already going through. And I was glad I was able to, like, hold it off. But what if you get a student that is not capable of doing that and she breaks down, or worse happened, you know? It's just, yeah, be kind. So yeah, because of that, I didn't want her to just get away with it. So yeah, I went through this complaint and made sure that myself and the mentor made sure that she wasn't able to be a mentor again. So yeah, that's my story for my worst placement of my life. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if any of you have ever experienced something like that, please comment and let me know. If there's any way I can help, please let me know. But my advice to you is, if you make sure you finish that placement, yeah, and pass that placement, but after, you have to complain. You have to make sure that this mentor does not get to be a mentor anymore, because we can't allow people to be abused or to be, you know, like, maltreated. Not just a placement, but any place of work, really. It's not fair. And if we have the power to do something to make a change, then we should do it. And if these mentors don't know how to be mentor and don't like actually taking care of the students, then they shouldn't be mentors. So please do complain if something like this ever happens to you. Do not just let them be. Make sure that they understand what they've done is wrong. So yeah, that's my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys would like me to speak about a different story, that's happened throughout my university career, please do let me know and I'll try and share it. Please guys, also don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.